Good evening, good morning, and good night, wherever you are. This is Andrew Glassford, and you're listening to listening to GND Media and our podcast. It is Christmas, or the holiday season, as some say.
Very
And
close.
what?
Very
What?
close to Christmas.
Very close. Well, this is getting heckled by other people on the show already. But I'm not here by myself, as ever. We have a fine cadre of folks to help make the world a better place. The best journalist now, not in Manchester, but in London, Alex King. Alex, you all right?
I'm good. I'm good. Happy to be back on a call with all three of you. It's been a long time.
Excellent. We've got the finest trade union organizer, not currently in the Northwest, currently learning about boars and wasps from 100 years ago in rural France. It's Lucy Burke. You all right, Lucy?
I am all right. Yeah, I'm in a house without any central heating.
And that's a brag. That's a brag.
It's very cold. It's very cold and it's very dark outside.
Sounds lovely.
I'm also recovering from my neighbour in here said, "Come round for an aperitif." Turned out that meant like really, really big measures of whiskey. Like that.
Well, what dinner's like at 9 o'clock? Yeah, so
serious aperitif time last night. But my French got better. Like, yeah, 3 glasses of whiskey in, and I was amazingly fluent.
And last but no means least, the meanest motherfucker in North Manchester is Adam Williams. How the hell are you?
And well, it's great to see you all. Not seen you all together for many moons now.
Yeah,
you're all doing well.
We're all doing stuff all across, well, at least Europe.
Western Europe, yeah.
Yeah, Western Europe.
Yeah.
But
we've internationalized.
We're an international podcast. Oh dear. So yes, it is our kind of Christmas bonus episode, and we like to kind of do a couple of things on this. Firstly, kind of think about the year and how we feel about it, what was good, what was bad, what we prefer to change, and then what we want to do next year. But also because I think we're going to start with maybe some highlights. If you were going to...
It's been possibly one of the worst years globally, that I've ever seen. I mean, we've been okay in the UK to a certain extent, especially weather-wise.
Mm-hmm.
But wow, across the world, it's either on fire or underwater, isn't it? And it's been, to me, it looks like it's almost like a vision of what's to come. But many people are actually experiencing it now. We just missed it. So for people that don't know, but like I say, that you cannot be too detached from the world. And obviously we speak to people, and we have friends in other countries, and we've seen so many disastrous things that it's been, it's been worrying. It's been really worrying, mate.
I wonder if
I wish you had a better,
Well, I think
we've more positive to say.
We've done this like Christmas show for the last 3 years, and I will say, I think our feelings end of each year haven't tended to get better in terms of the direction we're going. I feel like we're starting to see maybe more people in more places think about climate change, or like kind of understand the scale and the problem at hand. We're not to the point where we're seeing people mobilizing in the streets or something in the terms of some kind of eco revolution, but the conversations I've had with friends who seem more cognizant of it or of aware, I think brings me a little bit of hope, actually, that the people that I thought wouldn't care about this are now starting to worry, which I suppose is a good sign. Lucy, what do you think?
I think it's been a terrible year, and I'm sorry, because I'm naturally someone who wants to feel hope.
Yeah,
I really do. and nothing will stop me having part of me that's open up to the possibility of hoping to change. So there are things that have been positive on a smaller scale for me, but I think we've had sort of catastrophic climate events in the world. And I think we've had a catastrophic clampdown on a fundamental right to protest.
Yes.
Yeah.
Those events, including the incarceration of people for walking slow, suppression of dissent, loads and loads of police officers turning up to move on and sort of stop carol singers outside somebody's house. You know, all of the things that we've seen happening, I think, are really worrying, and they're really worrying because there's a direction of travel, which is plus the sense that we're living in a world where mass death, you know, death on an unimaginable scale is becoming normalized and becoming becoming something we're not supposed to feel anything for. So there's an abandonment of some core principles that were established for very good reason after the Second World War, which, you know, haven't been adhered to, you know, as we've seen across conflicts in the world. You know, there's always been, you know, kind of the suspension of the rule of law and things like that. But I think it's happening in a way that's fueled by the way people interact on social media, that is deeply worrying for what's to come, and which almost feels like a preparation for what's to come. In other words, a world where mass displacement of populations will be greeted with utter indifference and violence. And I think we're at this kind of tipping point in the world, or perhaps we're past that tipping point, where we're also seeing far right, you know, sort of extremist politics becoming mainstreamed and accepted. And we're going to, and I think if Trump is re-elected, that's an absolute catastrophe for the planet.
Yeah, well,
So,
to say the least, there's someone that, you know, was stripping the bare bones environmental protection agency in the US of its powers to even deal with, you know, like stuff that was supposedly started being dealt with in the 80s around like kind of clean air in cities, and, you know, like poisoning of water and whatnot. It's very worrying. And then to your point about, you know, like the was it the Sons of Italy in Italy, and
Brothers of Italy.
Brothers of Italy, yeah, sorry. And seeing how Rishi Sunak has kind of embraced their leader a few times in a very kind of casual, comradely way, while still trying to hold some sense of like British conservatism is different to whatever is growing in Europe, which is nonsense. I think we've spent at least the last 6 months going through kind of a Conservative Party melodrama in the UK about who can take up the mantle and reinvent the party so that they can stay in power. And they're in power, but they don't know how to use it, or don't really have a plan. So they're just doing the things which are the most diabolical to try and demonstrate some sense of agenda, purpose.
They've got nothing left but rhetoric and nothing left but toxicity, but that doesn't stop that being deeply damaging. And I suppose what my real concern is that right-wing kind of narratives take hold, and they're making sense to people, right? You know, and they're tapping into real and genuine discontent and poverty and inequality, which, you know, is a space where kind of people can go and, you know, try and persuade people who are at the, you know, the kind of sharp end of a really dysfunctional, broken system, that the real culprits are more vulnerable people.
Yes. You
know, on small boats. But what worries me is that if we have a Labour Party that is going along with that rhetoric to some degree, is kind of is sort of tapping into it and is not going to offer the real change that we need, is not going to massively and hugely improve people's living conditions, then I worry they'll last a term.
Yeah.
Then we'll get the equivalent of what's happened in Italy. We'll get some kind of Faragist, populist, extreme right-wing party coming in, and that'll be it.
Yeah.
And that's what I really worry about, and that's why I'm so disappointed that there's, you know, there's been no kind of recognition that what the Labour Party should be doing now is being brave and changing the narrative, and being brave enough to change the ways things are being constructed, rather than playing along with what it thinks voters want, or that the voters they want to seduce into voting Labour again want. And I think it's just that's.
What are the prospects of Le Pen returning in France, Lucy?
I think again you've got this long trajectory of kind of you know, the kind of mainstreaming of those ideas. I think politics has always been slightly different here, because you've equally got people who are supporting people like Mélenchon. So you've got a kind of leftist populist kind of move, and you've got very different kinds of political sort of traditions as well, in terms of how people sort of think about politics and vote. So where I am, it's kind of very because it's in the these are very sort of kind of in the middle of nowhere kind of rural communities. There's much more of a tradition of kind of mutual aid and sort of support within communities. It feels very, very different. It's interesting environmentally as well, but maybe that's a positive I can come on to in a bit. I don't know. I think there's a lot of discontent with Macron, and a lot of, you know, and there has been discontent here about the ways in which some environmental policies have been imposed from above. You know, the problem of not taking people with you, or not supporting people in making changes, because you know, as we know, that's when kind of problems come in, when it's when you don't kind of change the economic models, which means that it's difficult for people, and it's the poorest people who suffer. But
I think that
lessons there.
I think that kind of goes on to say that, you know, the thing about this leaning to authoritarianism in the UK and in Europe, especially around, you know, protest, is that organisationally, well, I suppose politically in a way, it's easier to be authoritarian in terms of if you're the leader of an organisation than to actually open your doors and take the criticism and work out the path forward with all the people and players. It's easy to say, well, these people are persona non grata and we don't have to care about them, which, you know, has been, I think, very prevalent in the last 2.5 months since, you know, the escalation of what's happened in Israel and Gaza. And actually today, you know, we've just been talking about bravery, Lucy. David Cameron's come out saying he wants a sustainable ceasefire, whatever that means, in Palestine, and now Keir Starmer's now just said that as well. So, you know, there really is kind of like Labour Party just tacking to whatever it thinks the kind of status quo is on a position, and then hoping that no one really notices that it's there. That it's just like kind of holding some, not even centre ground, but just, you know, political gravity, and just maintaining that, as opposed to actually doing politics in the terms of having ideas and fighting against, you know, putting them against other positions. Alex, to come to
what
you.
to add to that?
What to add to all of this? You're our you know, journalist in the field. How do you feel about, you know, the things you've been covering, and how climate has wrapped up in that? If things are changing at all, if you've seen any difference in what you've covered?
I'm similarly pessimistic. I think the pace of change at the moment we're seeing, the whole agenda has been kind of co-opted so thoroughly and marketized. I mean, you're looking at stuff like, I mean, to be to be fair, you are so in my line of journalism, planning journalism, you are starting to see the introduction of like more environmentally conscious sort of policy. So you've got things like biodiversity net gain coming through. But these things are always kind of couched in kind of the language of credits. And so like developers, for example, if they can't improve biodiversity on site, have to go off site. You can't do off site, they will buy credits. And all I can think about is the conversations we've been having on this podcast with the likes of Adrian Buller and the commodification of nature. Broadly, though, speaking like outside my field of journalism, I mean, just to echo really what Ads and Lucy have been talking about, I felt reflecting on 2023, it's been profoundly dispiriting because it feels like cumulatively the world is just becoming more unstable and conflict-ridden. You know, 2022 Ukraine, 2023 an even more obscene conflict, like which you didn't think was possible before, and somehow is. And it's difficult to know where this goes. Every time a conflict breaks out, you kind of just think, on a human level, it's catastrophic, but also the planet really doesn't need this. And like how
we ain't got time for this, man.
How many more of these can we, you know, where does this go? Like, I don't know.
I think sorry.
You go.
I'm going to say, I think on top of all this, and I think we've seen this over the last 10 years, there's such a layer of chaos agents in the world now. And I'm thinking more in terms of like, you know, kind of media people. But like I read this morning that, like, for example, Jordan Peterson saying that if Keir Starmer ends up in government, Britain will be like Venezuela in 10 years. Which is like, all the points of reference in that sentence don't make any sense.
Wow.
And like, he clearly doesn't understand what Keir, like, in a way, he could be right in terms of, yes, if Keir Starmer doesn't do anything bold, we'll end up with some mega inflation and people in the streets being really pissed off. But that's not what he means. He means that, you know, it would be, you know, a kind of workerist-owned, state-owned petro state. But like, you know, in his mind, that is the worst of all evils in the world, that people might own the resources they have.
But it shows you how far right it's gone, where Keir Starmer is ultra left wing. I mean, that's where we are right now. You know what I mean? It's crazy.
It's just it is mad. It's absolutely mad. I think we'll kind of come back on to 2024 and what we think about the Labour Party and what will happen very shortly. Right, so we're going to play a little game. I asked everyone to send me in answers to a set of questions earlier today. And basically the game is going to be, I'm going to read these. Your first political opinion that you ever had. I'll read these out for listeners who are not watching the video. Number one, wanting Brexit as an 8-year-old to maintain the sovereignty of the pound. Number two, I didn't have any political opinions as a kid, but I read John Pillinger's Hidden Agendas.
I know who that is.
When I was 18 or 19, which set me off on reading everything I could get my hands on, accumulating on me having a million political opinions. Number three, wealth should be redistributed, Robin Hood style. We'll kind of get into what that means. And number four, anti-Scottish independence.
Wow.
So who wants to start?
I think Lucy's very clear on one of them. Go on, Lucy.
I think number two is ads.
Okay.
I agree with that.
Bingo.
Reason? All right, yeah, straight away. Would you still recommend that book, ads, John Pill? Let's have a look at number four, anti-Scottish independence. Who do you think that is? We know it's not ads.
Well, I know that you were married in a kilt. I'm saying Andrew because I reckon Andrew. I mean, we've seen you in a kilt, mate. You've got to have some sort of Scottish ideas going on.
My thoughts. That's your guess.
That's my guess. What
Lucy,
do you reckon, guys?
Right. Can I just say the one thing that's really making me itchy looking at this slide is there needs to be an apostrophe in Pilgers.
Jesus.
Can you just put that in for me?
I just
Thank
copied
you.
it off the WhatsApp chat. I was writing this while we were putting the session together.
Throwing ads under the bus there.
Yeah.
No, I'm not.
Yeah.
I think number 4. I think number 4 is Andrew as well.
Okay. I can say that number 4 is not me.
Oh my
Is-
God.
It is a young
Yours truly.
Alex King.
Wow.
Alex, why did you hate people having independence as a child?
Yeah, what's that
So,
about?
To
Alex?
caveat, to preface all of this, my opinion has changed, but I think I thought it was a half-baked reactionary, and I fucking hated Alex Salmond. For those 3 good reasons.
So this is like in what, 2011? And
Yeah,
But
yeah.
that
You know,
guy-
when Alex Salmond
Not
was the
read
worst of
Tom
our
Bairn
problems.
yet, right? Or something.
That's
Okay.
crazy,
No, yeah.
man.
But I think, you know, like if they want it, you've got to give it to them. That's kind of my
But this is your
My stance
first
now.
political opinion was about that. That's crazy, man.
Right.
yeah. I know, cringe, very cringe.
Well, I love it.
There
I
we
love it
go.
as a character trait of yours, Alex. I think that's really, really interesting. Number 3, wealth should be redistributed, Robin Hood style. Alex, who do you think?
Ideologically, like straight and narrow, pure. This is the way kind of thing, you know. Whereas I think if it were, I don't think it would
She's
be
the
Andrew. 'Cause
Mandalorian.
I think by default Andrew is probably 1 because I can kind of see this Andrew-esque logic forming there. I don't think Lucy would think number 1. Put it that way.
Okay.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
Seriously not.
yeah.
Lucy would not think
Actually,
number
yeah,
1.
yeah. Yeah,
Well,
by default, that
okay.
definitely, wouldn't be Lucy.
There's a proud Yorkshireman somewhere there in number 1, I think.
Lucy, which answer is yours?
My answer is number 3, which I first thought as a very little kid, before younger than 8.
Is this
'cause
you
we-
watching like the Disney Robin Hood and, you know, going, that
Well-
fox is pretty cool?
No, not so much. It was I think it was my understanding of what people like my granddad was saying to me and talking to me about, and it just seemed, it just seemed obvious that you should share.
Yeah.
There shouldn't be very
Yeah, because
very,
it is
very
obvious.
rich
Yeah,
people.
yeah.
Going on to number 1 then, that is me. I recall I just moved schools out into the countryside, and when I was about 5 or 6, I started like watching the news before I went to school, and heard like, I think it's like someone was on like the BBC or whatever saying that Tony Blair was going to take Britain fully into the EU, and so we'd have to use the euro instead of the pound. And my 8-year-old reactionary self was like, I really like pounds. I don't want to use the euro. I was just like, we should leave whatever the EU is. I don't like it. And being like a staunch, like Ian Duncan Smith fan for like 2 months. Or was it, sorry, William Hague even? I think was running the party during this time.
Yeah. It was.
It's just, I think about that all the time. Like, how easily I was led astray by like someone saying, like, I think it's a good example of like reactionary politics played out as a child going, well, of course I don't want people coming over here in small boats. Like, you know, they'll try and take my pound coins or whatever. It just,
it's so weird, isn't it, being emotionally attached to basically an item of currency that you
it
give
is,
away. I mean,
yeah.
it's just like the weirdest thing that
It is. It is. My kids are like 9 and 11, and they sometimes talk about money in really sort of strange ways, like it's something sort of real. I don't know, like, and I think where have you got this concept of this, the importance of this metal coin or this paper? It's so crazy.
I think as well, like, if I remember, someone was saying, well, if we lost the pound, we'd be on a devalued currency. And then me going, but I can't get a lot with the £3 I've got already in the shop. What would I even do if there was...
I'm already hand to mouth, guys.
Yeah, I'm already hand to mouth as an 8-year-old going, Going to a
Hey.
tuck shop.
Hey, listen, just going back to Lucy's, and obviously with it being the Christmas special as well, this is a great meme. So A Christmas Carol, you know the film A Christmas Carol?
Yeah.
Yeah. So A Christmas Carol is a heartwarming tale of how the rich must be violently traumatized into sharing.
Violently traumatized by 3 ghosts.
That's what you have to do.
Last one. Your Prime Minister for 15 minutes. What one policy do you enact? Number 1, nationalise the Crown Estate or the theme parks. Number 2, go live on the telly to the nation and to tell them what the climate crisis is going to potentially destroy civil society if we don't dismantle the fossil fuel industry. Number 3, nationalise utilities. And number 4, ban the word appalling.
Ban the word
Now, what I
appalling.
really like about the responses to this question is that some of us have gone, well, 15 minutes is not a lot of time, so I must use executive power very sharply and specifically. And other of us are just like, well, I'll do the big thing I was going to do anyway, but just in 15 minutes.
I think some of us have thought, we'll do it in 15 minutes, then we have to get out of the door really quickly.
Yeah.
Sign the Magna Carta at the bottom and just say, like, no.
Nationalise utilities in 15 minutes. Wow.
It's the new TikTok craze, I'd say.
I reckon that's probably you, Andrew.
Ban the word appalling.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why? Why?
Because, listen, you've done a bit of stand-up comedy in the past. Yeah. This is right up
You
there.
think this is my big swing?
I think this is this is a stand-up gag. I reckon this is you, Andrew.
Okay.
I think number 2 is ads, personally. I think it's got the intensity, the urgency.
The spelling.
And the spelling.
Yeah, the spelling, yeah.
Now you say the spelling, I'm looking at it and go, which word's wrong?
Lucy, what would you reckon?
All right. I think that I think number 4 is you, Andrew. I think number 1 is Alex.
Okay. So starting at number 4, Alex King wants to ban the word appalling.
That's me.
Right.
You authoritarian shit.
Yeah. So I was being
Context.
I was being realistic of what you could possibly achieve in 15 minutes without just pressing the big red button.
It's quite hard to ban a word,
I know, yeah. Ban a word in the English
Yes.
language in 15 minutes.
Like, you've got to work out what to do for people who use it.
I hadn't thought
Ban
this
a
through.
word or nuke somewhere.
I know. What are you going to do with all the people who say
Wow.
it?
Never let this man get to power.
To be fair, I actually kind of meant politicians using the word appalling because it's bandied about and doesn't mean anything. I hadn't thought about the enforcement mechanism yet. I'll get around to that.
I think you could do that in Parliament. I think
Yeah.
you could change the rules in Parliament so you couldn't say the word appalling. I think you could probably get away. That would be something that could be quite easily done. But nationwide, probably not.
No.
Number 3 is Lucy Burke,
It is.
who's just casually going to nationalise the utilities in 15 minutes.
Yeah. Can you they really missed a trick when I wasn't when I wasn't elected.
Yeah.
We would have been sorted.
I would just love for you to be on Kate Burley explaining how you do it. You just be going, easy, mate. Easy, 15 minutes, get it done. Get it done. Gas, nationalised for 5 minutes.
4:30 p.m. on a Friday. What can we squeeze in?
Yeah,
Just
let us go out.
sending that last email to BP going, you're done. Number 2, I think we can all safely say, is Adam Williams with his polemic to the people.
Well, the key to that is to go live on telly. The idea is you go live on telly, yeah, then it's said and everybody hears it, and rather than write something or try and get something through Parliament quickly, it's just right, get on live TV, everyone can see you, you're the Prime Minister. I think that was.
And then finally, mine is number 1, nationalise the Crown Estate or the theme parks. My point being, whichever is easier in terms of writing the thing out. I think the Crown Estate is fucking huge and would be quite easy just to go, that's ours. Because you just dissolve the king. I think you could probably do that as an executive, maybe. Probably. I think if someone tried hard, they could do it in 15
Why do
minutes.
you want to nationalise Lightwater Valley?
Because, right, it's a very good question. Thank you for asking. I think theme parks are too expensive. I think, you know, I love Alton Towers.
The great cause of our time. This
And
go on.
Hey, man, as has always been said, you don't just lead with the head, lead with the heart. People love Alton Towers, Gulliver's World. They fucking love a Flamingo Land. You know, if you said everyone gets free admittance into Flamingo Land every year, they'd be like, all right, on the doorstep, voting for you, I reckon.
I must admit, I was devastated when I heard that Camelot shut down years ago because I used to go there with school. Remember Camelot?
No.
Yeah.
Oh, you remember?
Unless
Yeah,
you're,
Lucy,
you know,
yeah,
1,000 years old and actually an ancient knight.
yeah.
God. Well, so I wasn't keeping any score on that whatsoever. So, but I think I don't know who won. I feel like you're all winners. It's egalitarian. You all won. Yay!
Socialise them.
Socialise. We're
The point.
socialising the wins for a change. Not just if
Stage.
you are still listening to this on Boxing Day after being, elbow deep in a box of Quality Streets after falling asleep watching Saving Private Ryan. You can support this show if you've enjoyed it. Even if you haven't enjoyed it, it is your moral duty to support climate change.
It is.
So
Tomorrow.
please head
Yeah.
to our Patreon at patreon.com/gndmediauk, where you can sign up for as little as £1 a month and get into such exciting things like we have a monthly book tombola, I suppose the word is to use for that, where you can win exciting books about climate change. You have the
Book
opportunity to what?
Tombola.
Or is it not a tombola?
You put your hand in a thing for a tombola.
Well, it's a digital hand you put your
Yeah.
thing in.
All right.
No.
It's a digital thing you put your hand in. And you can also ask questions of our future guests. And there's other things which goes on there, other content, ads, does reviews of various documentaries and movies. And we're doing all kinds of stuff in 2024. We're going to be hitting the road and going and seeing folks, asking them about the climate crisis and how it affects them. We're going to head to Wales and meet some people who are living in the town which has been condemned by the Welsh government and to be left to fall into the sea. And we're going to hear about those real effects of the climate crisis on people's lives. So if you want to help us build that, maybe you want to get involved and want to do some artwork or come and do a podcast. If you're better at it than I am, which is a very low bar right now, please join us at G&D Media. Have a lovely rest of 2023. Have a great 2024. And we'll see you on the barricades. Bye.
See ya.
Have a great end of the year, people, and we'll see you in 2024.